It is an absolute pleasure. Coach Eric Mangini, former coach of the Jets and the Cleveland Browns. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It's great to be here.
So, in your opinion, who is the more complete team in all aspects?
Wow, that is a tough question. I've played the Steelers twice this season and twice the season before, and they're pretty complete. They've got a physical offense. They have a quarterback that can make dynamic plays both in the pocket and outside of the pocket. They've got fast, explosive receivers complemented by some guys that can do things in the short area, and a dominant defense. So I'm going to go with the Steelers on that.
Now, Coach, Aaron Rodgers has gotten a number of concussions this season. If he gets injured early in the game, do you think the Packers are going to be able to pull through and remain competitive?
It would be really hard. Aaron Rodgers is his accuracy is impressive. We played the Packers in the preseason. We played them last season as well. And when he gets hot, his accuracy, it's hard to deal with, even if you're in tight coverage. And losing him would be devastating.
Now, all experts are indicating that this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game. Do you agree with them?
Well, I don't know if I do agree with them. You're looking at two teams that are ranked top in almost every defensive category, where either Pittsburgh's 1 and Green Bay's 2, or Green Bay's 1 and Pittsburgh's 2. I can see why they would say that, and the points that both teams have been able to produce over the course of the season. But these are two pretty good defenses as well.
If there was going to be one surprise star player on either team tomorrow, who do you think that person would be?
Wow, that's I don't know if it's going to be a surprise or not a surprise. I think there's a lot of guys on both sides that can make plays to affect the game, and this is one of the few Super Bowls where I think you can say that, where there are so many guys that are in position to affect the game in such a meaningful way. I don't know if I can.
I'm putting you on the spot here, huh?
You really are, and I don't think I can give you one guy that I think is going to do that. I know that in terms of players that I think are going to have a huge impact on the game, Troy Polamalu for the Steelers, and Clay Matthews for Green Bay. Both guys are really dynamic defensive players that can ruin the game for their opponent.
Which quarterback do you think would potentially benefit more or be able to read more effectively the other team's blitz package?
Well, the great thing for both quarterbacks is that these two teams run mirrored defenses. So they've been working against these defenses since the start of the offseason, throughout the training camp and the regular season. And with Ben Roethlisberger, he's seen this throughout the whole course of his career because there's been consistency defensively. Now, that being said, both defensive coordinators are known for their creativity and for bringing something that they haven't brought in the previous game, so I'm sure that'll be the case as well.
We always talk about the players, but what's going on in the coaches' minds at this point?
Well, it's a mix of things. You're excited, and the anticipation builds as the week goes on. But as a head coach, what you want to do is try to make things as similar as possible to all the previous weeks, and that's hard to do. And the team that is able to do that the best, it usually has an advantage going into the game. You want to have that consistency and that routine in an environment that's as inconsistent and as unique as you can possibly imagine. But I think that Pittsburgh's experience and Mike Tomlin's experience playing in the Super Bowl has got to help.
During halftime, everybody talks about the show, but I know I've always been one of the people who think, what is the coach saying to the team in the locker room? And you've been in there, so give us the inside scoop. What's really going on during halftime? Forget the Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, I've never seen, being at 3 Super Bowls, I've heard about the halftime show.
Right.
You never get to see it, which is a good thing.
What's going on?
Well, what you do is you come in, the guys, typically halftime is 12 minutes. This is a longer halftime for the Super Bowl. So you go in, the guys get a couple minutes to take care of whatever they need to take care of, and then you try to take the plays that have hurt you in the first half and address them with your players and say, this is how we're going to fix these problems. And you're also saying, these are some things that we're going to run, if it's offensively, some plays we're going to run the second half that may be different than what we did in the first half. So you're making those adjustments with everybody together, everybody hearing it at the same time, and then you go out and you execute that in the second half.
Clearly you have a lot of time to train and practice, but there really isn't anything to prepare for that nerve-wracking pressure, because this happens once a season if a team's lucky enough to get there.
Sometimes it happens once a career, and it is a special experience. But what you have to do as a player and as a coach is understand it's the same exact game that you've been playing up to this point. And what's going to allow you to be successful is being comfortable and confident with the things that you've done all the way to that point to get you to where, to get you to the Super Bowl, and not try to deviate because it is so much is on the line. That's what can get you into trouble is trying to make plays because it's the Super Bowl instead of doing all the things that have made you successful up to that point.
And as a coach, how do you convince how have you convinced your players to do that at games?
Well, it's again, the Steelers have had some players with experience in the Super Bowl, and oftentimes you draw on that. In New England, with Bill Belichick and a lot of the guys that we had in the staff, or some of the guys we had in the staff, they had experience in the Super Bowl. So you try to give the players the benefit of that experience and continue to reinforce how important it is to be that same guy and that same team that got you to play in this game.
We have a chat room question for you, actually, Coach. Rick?
We have a few. How does the length of the Super Bowl affect the players? Because it usually is longer than a regular game.
Well, that's actually a great question because it starts at a time that most games don't normally start. It's 6:30. That's different, and the build up, the time from when you go out and do your initial warm ups to when the game actually starts is much longer than it normally is, and you stress to the players now to not get too excited, too worked up early, because you don't want them to peak at the wrong moment. You want them to peak right at kickoff, and that amount of time is so different than what you've experienced. You got to keep stressing, okay, this is how many minutes we have between us warming up and the ball actually being kicked off. You don't want to over stress yourself early. You want to peak at the right moment.
Rick?
And do you play music to pump the guys up, and what kind of music is it?
Well, each player has a different way that they like to prepare for the game. So we wouldn't play music in the locker room or have any sort of universal song that we all listen to. Each guy has their iPod or whatever instrument they're using to listen to music, and they listen to it individually.
So we've been talking about the players, but I'm curious to know what's next for you.
That's a great question too. It's a pretty unique situation. I'm looking at some different things in football and some things outside of football, whether it be in TV or radio or something like that.
Would you like to host Backstage Live?
I think they have a wonderful host of Backstage Live.
You can come back anytime.
Thank you. I don't think I'd be able to do it as well. So it's going to be fun figuring out what is next.
You have 3 children, and they're young, right?
Yes, I've got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old, and 6 and 4 is going to be 7 here at the end of the month, 7 and 5, and it's so much fun being able to coach them and spend time with them and just be a dad.
2 more questions.
2 more questions.
Do you like your wings boned or boneless?
Excellent question. I don't know who sent that in, but I appreciate it.
Who is that?
I think that was, I'm going to find out. I think, Bright.
All right, well,
answer the question while I figure out who.
Okay, well, I like both styles. To me, though, crispy and spicy, that's the prerequisite. The other part, I can go either way.
It was
level of
Bryce.
spicy.
Bryce asked that question.
Oh, thank you, Bryce. And level of spiciness from 1 to 10. Are you really totally spicy?
I want it. Yeah, I want it to be on the hot side, but not so hot that you can't breathe, but hot enough that you know that it's there.
All right, Rick. We can't forget that one last question.
We won't. George C. asks, is coaching professionals that much different than student athletes?
Well, my experience has been a little bit unique in the sense that I've never actually coached in college. I went right from college into being involved in the NFL, so I haven't had that experience of coaching collegiate athletes. I'd imagine there are some big differences. In one area, they're getting paid. It is their job. It's what they do every single day. In college athletics, you have the football component or the sports component, but you also have to go to school, and you have all the other aspects of being a college student. So I would imagine it's different. I just don't have the firsthand knowledge of what it's like to coach college athletes.
Do you miss playing at Wesleyan?
Well, that seems like forever ago.
You're not supposed to say that.
I just turned 40 years old, so
You're admitting a lot. All right, listen, this TV training, if you want to get into it, there are some things you've got to just keep under wraps.
I feel good about that milestone. I think it's hit it at a good time. But I do miss that experience, or what I appreciate that experience so much more as I get further away from it, and it was such a special place to play, very
Great
pure and just a fun experience.
Coach, it was an absolute pleasure having you on Backstage Live. Thank you so much for being here. Come back again if we need a co-host. We know who to call.
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.